When Superstorm Sandy slammed into New England in 2012, hundreds of homes and businesses were damaged or destroyed. As one of the most destructive hurricanes in history, it caused more than $70 billion in damage in the months and years of recovery, of course. A lot to really sort through, Paul.
Yeah, and one group took on the mission to rebuild and strengthen the protective barrier around Lower Manhattan. Now imagine a playground for kids that doubles as a defense against the rising sea levels.
I love it.
Well, joining us right now is Joan Krevlin. She's a partner at BKSK Architects, and you're the firm that kind of came up with this. You created the Battery Playscape, Lower Manhattan. Your group worked on that. How did you conceive of this idea to kind of blend something that you can use year-round for something you can also use to protect for the future?
It was a real opportunity to showcase how thinking about how we build in coastal areas, particularly because there are so many playscapes along the edges of cities, how to build in a way that could both be fun for kids and manage water. And particularly in response to Sandy, it felt like an opportunity that couldn't be missed. The Battery has always shown leadership in terms of how it develops its site, and we saw an opportunity to make a playground that could show how it could build with nature as opposed to against nature.
That's a really great idea to sort of to blend this educational yet almost necessary aspect of public hazards here that we have to be careful of. You know, let's start with that 18-foot bluff that holds a series of slides and acts like an informal flood wall. Can you describe that and how you came about that?
Yeah, and it's not exactly a flood wall because it does rise up, so it's well above the flood plain, so it protects kids and that area of the playground. But it doesn't act as a wall. More, our strategy was one that you see throughout cities everywhere, which is to make more permeable areas that can slow the filtration of water as it comes down onto a site, so that the bluff rises high, but below that is a series of rain gardens, a bioswale, which through its planting helps slow and filter the water that falls on the site. So the water that falls high on the bluff is channeled to this spine of planting, this bioswale, which cleanses and filters the water and slows it as it falls on the site. It then goes into a detention channel. It can then slowly be let out back into the stormwater system. So it's less a blocking and it's more slowing, cleansing, and managing.
And New York City is famous for their transportation, their subways, and this playscape is actually on top of 3 subway lines. As you saw when the Superstorm Sandy came through with the storm surge, a lot of subways were flooded in Lower Manhattan. So how did you work with the city to kind of help your playscape area also protect their vulnerable subway system?
Well, so there's a lot of bureaucracy, but they're good partners. And so we had to understand where all those tunnels were, how to locate any of our footings for the structures in the play space, as well as our large detention tank to not hurt those subways, so that we had a very complicated footprint in which to build, but sometimes challenges allow you to do the best solutions. And we were able to work around the existing infrastructure to build our playscape, and working very closely with the MTA and other agencies in the city.
So let's now turn our attention to the purely fun aspect of all this, right? What can the kids do at this playscape? And I kind of have heard, a little birdie told me that there was a 4-foot octopus hiding somewhere. Is that true?
There is a 4th. So we have the bluff that has 5 slides that are carved out of stone, which is really special. Then that leads down to what we call the riverbed. And the riverbed, there's water play and there's sand. And if kids dig in that sand, they can find a 14-foot octopus hiding under there. There are tree houses that rise on stilts above the ground with nets that crisscross and connect them, and what we call a dune, which kids can climb up on. It turns into a climbing wall, and seating for a small puppet theater. So there's performance, there's climbing, there's challenges, and there's just general play.
And what's been the reaction to this? Do people who live in the area kind of frequent the park? Do they know it's there to kind of act as a buffer against storm surge, or do they think, hey, this is just our neighborhood park?
I think it's just their neighborhood park, but I think that kids intuitively understand the relationship to nature and the environment that they're in. And one of the things that's special about this place is that about 50% of it is covered with planting, because the planting, of course, helps us with the water that we've been talking about. So it's a plant-filled, horticultural-filled playscape for kids. So it's not just the playing that they're doing, but it's connections to daily and seasonal change. And I think that they intuitively, because they're playing in such a beautiful natural environment, learn to be stewards of the environment.
What a great lesson and a fun way to learn in that way. Joan Krevlin with BKSK Architects, thank you so much for joining us. Wow, what a great place to be, huh?